we're halfway through Solomon.
We are halfway through Solomon.
A little more than that now, technically. It's good to do a little recap. And, well, the other thing was, there were a couple things that you and Amber had said that I thought would be cool to just touch on super fast. Because we had our friend Amber here from Man of Peace, and
she was amazing, as usual. Yeah, I mean, had some great things to say.
Yeah, I love when she said, like, and the reason that we had her this week was it conveniently worked out that she was home while she could speak to something that would so tie into what the message was yesterday.
Exactly.
Right?
Week 4, we said, you know what? God equips you for what he calls you to.
Yep.
And that was Amber's story, right?
Yeah.
Week 5, which we just finished yesterday, is we should celebrate the things God does in and through us. So she kind of bridged the gap.
We were able
of both, you know, insert that right in the middle, and her stories are amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
And I liked what she said so much, that God gives us what we need, not always what we want.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the things that we really want are what, like, we get confused and we think we need them.
Yeah,
we're like,
that's right.
I gotta have this. If I could just have this, I'm gonna be able to do so much for you, God. And like, if he's not giving it to you, we don't need it.
Yeah. Which,
and I just thought that was a really good point to remember going into the conversation we'll have.
And when he invites us to something, what was the Latino gentleman thing?
Yeah,
what was that?
Yeah, she was talking about how the difference between, like, when somebody invites you, you have to, in their culture, if you invite somebody to do something, if you invite somebody to go to coffee or something, it's expected that you're going to cover the coffee.
That's what it was.
If you say, like, come on, we'll go grab some coffee, then, okay, yeah, we both pay for our coffee. But, like, if I'm inviting you intentionally.
It's an intentional invitation, then they're going to pay. So that's what she was saying.
It's like, is it good gentleman?
God is like a Latino gentleman where he invites us and he pays.
Yeah.
And he provides and he gives us what we need.
Covers us.
Whatever
the
case might be. Which is a really cool way of thinking about it.
Yeah. It's an important reminder for sure. Because then when we get to the other side of those things, the way that you talked yesterday about, like, acknowledge that you did the good thing, right?
Yeah.
But then also give
Isn't
the
it hard
credit to God. It's so hard.
Do you understand what I mean?
I was laughing.
Like, were you really?
Because I actually had this moment where I kind of giggled, and Amber and I are pals, so she's not going to care that I did this, but she did the exact opposite thing when you were interviewing her, and you were like, what's something God's done through you? And she was like, not that much. And I was like, and then you started talking about acknowledge the good thing you did.
When
and I was
she said that, I was like, oh man, she doesn't know what I'm preaching on. And it's like,
not to put you on blast.
But one of the things is hard for us to admit that we just did something good.
It is.
And especially especially as we're believers in Christ and we give God credit, it's even harder to admit that we've done something good. Because, like, oh, I don't want to say anything good that I did, man. I would give it all the credit to God, which we got to in point number 2.
Right.
And what the balance is there.
Yeah.
But it's hard to admit.
It's hard to learn that balance, because I think we almost become, and this isn't what, like, God doesn't call us to be self-deprecating.
Yes.
Right? Not at all.
That's a great way to say that. He
lifts us up.
Great way to say that.
In our humility, he lifts us up, but he lifts us up and he, like, displays his own glory through us.
That's
and,
right.
Like,
That's
it's cool that we get to be a part of that.
100%.
But we almost have this weird cultural thing where we're like, if I acknowledge that, like, I did this, then people are going to think I'm prideful, or people are going to think I'm cocky.
Or God's going to strike me down.
Or God's going to be mad at me. Like, no.
Yeah. Be honest.
Yeah.
Just honesty. You know, it's intellectual honesty. It's reality. It's like, okay, I did this, but how do we keep from getting a big head? We just got to go to point 2 and just give God credit where it's due.
It's really cool that, I love what you said about, like, God could do everything without us, and if he chose to do everything without us, it'd probably go a lot better than it even does when it goes well for us.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'll say something to people like, great job on that meeting or something like that. And they're like, oh, it was all God. It was all God. And I'm like, nah.
Can
I be honest with you?
No, we wouldn't have even had to have the meeting if it was all God, but it's okay. But, at the same time, he like, through the way the Spirit works through us, like, there have been, using that meeting example, like, there's times where you go into a meeting and what's happening inside of you, you want to blow up, you want to be angry, you want to be really ticked off, but the Spirit can kind of smooth that out. All of a sudden, you're having, like, this ability to understand where the other person's coming from, and you're asking good questions, and these things are happening, and it's like, wow, God has given me this gift to be able to communicate clearly and understand this other person across the table from me, and like, and just enjoy talking with them about what could have otherwise been really a conflict-driven conversation.
Right. And when you admit that, okay, this went well, but look at all I put into it, and then I was afraid, and God met me. Yeah. And then I needed this, and God provided it. Yeah. And then I needed this, and then God was like, no, I'll give you the strength and the wisdom and everything else. Yeah. And God was with me the whole step of the way, and I was able to accomplish just giving God all the credit. Yeah. It's a whole lot different than, it's all God, man. You shut down the story. And it doesn't even make sense to people.
Well, especially somebody who isn't a believer, you say like, yeah, that's all God. They're like, okay, like, what does that mean?
Because I saw you nervous at the beginning of that meeting.
Right.
So what do you mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? Yep. So I know it's tough to talk through that, because it makes it seem like we're only giving a little bit of credit to God. No, we're giving it all the credit. But it's also this working relationship that God has chosen to use us in that. You know?
Yeah, which is really a fun thing. And then we started blessing lawnmowers.
We did.
Which
I'll be honest,
was exciting.
That thought came to me when I was in the middle of the sermon, and I'm like, I can tell people aren't getting what I'm saying. Yeah. So I'm like, let me give you an example, right? And the first thing came out of my mouth was,
you are,
let's say you have a lawnmower, and you fixed it, and I'm like, where am I going to go with this? You know what I mean? And so,
it came around though and made a lot of sense.
Yeah, because you took something so simple and a simple everyday win, an everyday victory, and you pronounced a blessing over the future of it and the future of yourself because you accomplished it. And that's really all this is saying. And that came from that part in Solomon in 1 Kings 8 when Solomon was finished with the temple and is doing his prayers and things like that. And the first thing he said, by the way, was in 56, praise the Lord who has given rest to his people Israel, just as he promised. Not one word has failed of all the wonderful promises he gave through his servant Moses. Yeah. Nothing has failed. And God can't fail, and it just says his word will always fail. Yep. Then he went through a litany of may this happen, may this happen, may we, God, be obedient to you. Yeah. In a way that only blessings can do. Right. Because it's projecting that special future. Yeah, it is. You know?
Well, and I think the obvious thing here is that completing the Lord's temple was not just your standard everyday win, right?
No, that was a 20-year
project. That's a huge project.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of time on it. I mean, we've spent weeks kind of leading up to where now we're here. We've arrived at the point where they have completed it.
Yeah, that's right.
But we see this model of pronouncing a blessing that we can then take and use in the everyday wins.
That's right.
Which is really important. I think we get lost and we're like, get so focused sometimes on the really big things that we lose the little things along the way. Mm-hmm. Or vice versa. We get so caught up in the little tiny things that then we lose track of what are the really big wins that we're trying to work towards, right?
Yeah, but I totally agree.
Either way, we get to say, like, Lord, I know that without you, this would not have happened. Yep. Now I want to be able to take it, and may you use it for your glory for so many years to come, beyond even when I'm involved in this thing anymore.
Look what good is going to come from this thing that has happened. The good that has come from fixing it and maybe serving somebody with the lawnmower. The good that has come from me fixing it and taking bigger risks. And that's what I was mentioning yesterday. Yep. Because I think that it was a unique concept when I was reading this, and I'm like, okay, he did all the celebrating, he did all the, hey, I built this for you, God, but I'm giving you all the credit. You're the one that made the plans. You're the one that asked me to do it.
Yeah.
And all of that was good. And then he pronounced a blessing on it, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
It's really cool.
And it kind of was like an eye-opening thing for me to say, what if every win, everyday win, big win, small win, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I was able to say about that thing, separate myself, celebrate it somehow, and say a prayer of blessing over it.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know, man. It just changes.
It's cool to think about
dynamic.
that.
Yeah.
The really practical things that, like, all of us are good at different practical things, right? Like you're a car guy. Phil's a car guy, my husband.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about cars when we got married. I would like show up to Meineke, hope they were telling me the truth, and be like, yeah, okay, fix it. Phil is like, no, like, just take the paper that has all the red, like, this is bad, and bring it home, and we'll solve them at home, right? Oh, that's
funny, man.
And so, like, I've been able to pick up some little skills. I can change the oil now. I can, change a tire, whatever. Switched a fuse the other day. Those little wins are like, oh my gosh, I'm so cool. I'm a mechanic. Like, I am going to change the world with my mechanic skill, which I'm not. But it has given me the ability to, like, I was able to change another friend's oil recently. Like, she was driving a lot back and forth, and, like, Phil was working. I was like, well, I can change the oil. And then we just did it. And it's really cool. I didn't think at all about,
man.
Oh, I should, like, pray over this and, like, ask God to use this as something that you don't think about that, but it's like, if we do that, then it takes this thing that I'm, like, doing and enjoying, and then makes it about Jesus and sharing just, like, his love with others. It's cool.
That was a really cool thing you did. And to everybody else, they might have been like, what?
Why?
And you're like, no, actually, it was really cool for him to be able to do it.
Yep.
And then it takes it, and you're right, man. It takes a simple thing and says, I want it to be a kingdom thing.
Yeah.
Just by saying and pronouncing a blessing, and
And we want all of our lives to be like, I want my whole life to be kingdom focused.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the little chores that we have to do, or like I used to think about this with sports, like people think about, like, I'm going to play sports to the glory of God. Doesn't make sense initially when you just think about it, but then you're like, wait, no, like, I have the ability to really, like, I can excel at this sport, and then I can thank God for the body he's given me and the strength he's given me and all of these different pieces, and it's just really fun.
And then he then takes what he's done inside you, and he does something through you. And that was one of the points of yesterday too, that when he does something through us, he's always doing something in us, and vice versa. So that your prayer of, I want to play these sports for your glory, also gives you a platform for the other people on the team, and even younger athletes that are looking up to you or something like that. And it's like, man, he's now using that for kingdom purpose. And it's really, I think that's significant.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the little things can be significant. Big things stay significant. It's really cool.
Now, let me ask you a question, because I was asking myself this after the message yesterday.
All right.
And I was like, point number 4 was be encouraged. We all get that. Yeah, man. If God's doing things in us and through us, we should be encouraged, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I used the word together. I said, be encouraged - together.
Yep.
And the together part, I just feel like there's something in it when somebody celebrates, even just for 10 minutes with you, just saying, tell me about that. And you can tell them about something big or little. Maybe it made sense to you, not to them, but it's like, why is that? Why is it so powerful? Why do we see it always in Scripture where people are celebrating together? And even Jesus's parables, like I was mentioned yesterday, lady finds the lost coin, she gets a hold of some friends and says, celebrate with me.
Found it.
And everybody's like, yeah, sure, we'll do that.
But I think it's something that goes all the way back to the garden, right? Of, like, the God looking at Adam, like, it's not good for man to be alone. Like, he designed us to be in community with other people, and to experience life with other people.
Yeah.
There's other places, you know, like weep with those who weep, mourn with those who mourn, like, but also rejoice with those who rejoice, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
We're supposed to do those things together, especially in the context of the capital C church.
Yeah, I agree.
And like, it's just more fun. You just like,
it sure
when you get to share
man.
with somebody, and it almost like, there's something where a really awesome thing can almost turn a little bit disappointing if you don't have anybody to celebrate it with. Have you had that before?
Funny? Oh yeah.
Like
man,
I'm
man, there's nobody to.
Yeah.
Cool. It's really
or
great,
even
but
okay, random side thought. Like you like got your arms full of dishes, and I'm walking into the kitchen and I drop a knife, and all of a sudden I have swung my hand down, caught the knife on the safe part of the knife, didn't drop a single dish, and I'm like balancing stuff on my foot.
Yep, and you're
I'm like, I am a ninja.
Somebody need to see this. Nobody
saw it. And now I'm sad a little bit. Even though it was like so cool, I'm like, the first thing I want to do is call somebody and be like, this cool thing.
I had a friend tell me he's a guy that is really, really wise and, you know, still in ministry and does a lot of counseling. And he said he thinks the two most important things for any human being is trust in the Lord.
Yep.
That's that thing with him, and relationship.
Yeah.
Because everything is relationship. He thinks that's the most basic part of human need is relationship, because we have relationship with each other.
Yep.
We have relationship with God.
Yeah.
And it's like everything's about this relationship.
It is.
And so it's pretty significant that I think we ought to be also doing that thing where Paul says, rejoice with those who rejoice.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So
yeah, I think that's a big deal. And encouraging other people when they do something good is really, I think of the confidence. Like you have now I have this confidence to go and try something. Like you said, take another risk, try something that might be a little harder next time. Like, well, I was successful with this thing, and like, got all these people who believe in me. I could probably do this thing too.
Yeah.
It's a good pattern to get into.
Really good pattern.
Yeah.
And I think really good for our soul, really good for our mind to be able to celebrate, pronounce the blessing, move forward that way. Yeah. Oh man, it would just do so much. It just would. I really do think.
It's true.
Yeah, man.
It's very true. All right. Well, it's worth noting that next week we have this super long meeting on Monday with our staff.
Oh,
so
that's
we're
right.
not going to be
We do have
here.
a staff meeting.
So
that's
don't worry. Nothing bad has happened. If you get to next week and we're not here, we planned that. We'll be here 2 weeks from now, and we'll kind of hit both of the sermons.
We'll get back. Yeah, that's right. They're kind of the same.
Yeah. So don't be alarmed.
Yeah.
Have a great 2 weeks. And we will see you soon.